All right, it is Thursday, January 30th, and a desperate search happening right now for a missing infant in Florida. Little Andrew Caballero, just 1 week old.
Where he was last seen, with who, and what we know about a string of murders leading up to his disappearance. Plus, senators finally have their say in the impeachment trial.
That's right, the brutal back and forth during round one of questioning and the resurfaced video from John Bolton that has President Trump declaring game over for Democrats. Also, Vanessa Bryant breaks her silence, I should say, on her family's unthinkable tragedy.
Her touching tribute to Kobe and Gigi as the basketball world commits to keeping the Mamba and the Mambacita spirit alive. Fox and Friends First continues right now. Midtown Manhattan, it's pretty quiet to start the day. No rain, no snow. Pretty warm.
We're still getting lucky with winter.
We are.
Can't
Good
say it
morning.
enough.
You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Jillian Mealy.
I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for getting up early with us today. And game over. That is President Trump's message to Democrats regarding the impeachment trial as newly resurfaced videos of John Bolton and Adam Schiff bring their credibility into question.
Doug McElway is live in our nation's capital as the fight for witnesses is heating up in the Senate. Good morning, Doug.
Morning, Jillian. Morning, Rob. Yeah, some new developments while you slept overnight. The president's spirits buoyed by the release of these newly resurfaced videotapes of John Bolton, which the president's team maintains cast some serious doubt on his credibility. In an all-caps tweet, the president said, "Game over," and he linked to this Bolton August 2019 interview with Radio Free Europe. In it, he says that fighting corruption in Ukraine is a high priority for the Trump administration, and he makes no mention of any kind of a quid pro quo. Take a listen.
The president called to congratulate President Zelensky on his election and then on his success in the parliamentary election. They were very warm and cordial calls. We're hoping that they'll be able to meet in Warsaw and have a few minutes together.
And another resurfacing of an old tape, this one of Adam Schiff criticizing Bolton's pick as national security advisor, saying Bolton lacks credibility.
And particularly given the history where we've had the politicization of intelligence over WMD, why we would pick someone who the very same issue has been raised repeatedly, and that is John Bolton's politicization of the intelligence he got on Cuba and on other issues. Why we would want someone with that lack of credibility, I can't understand.
Well, last night's question and answer session focused heavily on whether or not to call new witnesses, including Bolton. But the president's team says that if Bolton is called, it would open the floodgates to as many as 18 new witnesses called by the president's defense, including the whistleblower, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Committee, on and on, potentially dragging the trial out for months. The president's defense also says Democrats are abusing what the framers intended impeachment to be.
They didn't intend to give Congress a license to decide who to impeach and who not to impeach on partisan grounds. I read you the list of 40 American presidents who have been accused of abuse of power. Should every one of them be impeached? Should every one of them have been removed from office? It's too vague a term.
After a series of morning press conferences, we expect the Q&A session to resume at 1 p.m. and things could be wrapped up, according to a lot of Republican senators, by this afternoon as far as the Q&A session is concerned. Rob, Jillian, back to you.
All right, we'll see. Good to see you, Doug. Thanks so much.
You too.
The Senate's fight over witnesses stems from the fact that Republicans don't want to help Adam Schiff put finishing touches on a case that should already be set.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is a member of President Trump's defense team and says the case should be tossed based on Schiff's lies alone.
From the well of the United States Senate, Adam Schiff lied to millions of Americans who are tuning in, saying that there was no coordination with the whistleblower. We know that there is coordination between Adam Schiff, his staff, and the whistleblower. Before the whistleblower complaint was even issued, they helped put together the complaint, and he withheld that information from his colleagues on the committee. The good news is the president's legal team has done a tremendous job poking holes in Adam Schiff's faulty case, proving that there is no direct evidence of any impeachable offenses.
Republicans need 51 votes to shut down the Democrats' calls for more witnesses.
All right, today the World Health Organization will decide if the deadly coronavirus is a global emergency. The White House assembling a task force to monitor the virus, with cases growing over 1,000 per day. The virus killing at least 170 people, infecting more than 7,700 at this point. Only 5 confirmed in the U.S., though, at this time. Nearly 200 Americans returning from Wuhan, China, are under a voluntary 3-day quarantine. If no symptoms show up, they can travel home and be monitored for the next 2 weeks. Some 800 Americans are still believed to be trapped in China, as a growing number of airlines are suspending flights to that region.
The search for a missing baby intensifies after the father, accused of stealing the newborn, is found dead. Florida police issuing an Amber Alert, naming Ernesto Caballero as the suspected abductor, when the infant's mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother were all found dead. Now, it appears he killed himself, but the baby was nowhere to be found.
The one individual told us that he saw a blonde woman sitting in the truck. And I sit here and pray to God that that is true and that she has the baby. What we're praying for is that he handed the baby off to somebody.
Police are urging anyone with information to call 911. It is deadline day for a mother and stepfather to turn over 2 missing kids. Lori Vallow and Chuck Daybell were found in Hawaii last week. A judge in Idaho gave them 5 days to bring the children to court. Joshua Vallow and Tylee Ryan have been missing since September. Their grandparents arriving in Idaho, hoping for their safe return.
I'm not even, in a sense, mad at her, because I don't care about her anymore. The only thing I care about is those 2 grandkids.
If they aren't returned, the couple could face contempt charges.
All right, Kobe Bryant honored with a moment of silence overnight in the first game at the Staples Center since his death. The LA Kings paying tribute before their hockey game against the Lightning. The Lakers are scheduled to play there tomorrow in the house that Kobe built. This as Kobe Bryant's heartbroken widow speaks out for the first time. Vanessa Bryant says she is completely devastated, as you might imagine, posting on Instagram, "There aren't enough words to describe our pain right now. It's impossible to imagine life without them, but we wake up each day trying to keep pushing because Kobe and our baby girl Gigi are shining on us to light the way." Bryant also creating the Mamba on 3 fund to raise money for the crash victims' families. Remember, there are 7 others involved in this. The helicopter's wreckage was moved to Phoenix, where the NTSB will continue investigating.
Just so tragic. Putting America first, President Trump signing the historic USMCA trade agreement into law. Democrats slamming the president for snubbing them at the White House ceremony. Garrett Tenney has more on the event.
Today, we're finally ending the NAFTA nightmare and signing into law the brand new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement.
Hundreds of guests gathering at the White House as the president officially signed the new USMCA trade deal into law. In his remarks, he spoke about the impact this agreement will have for the 3 countries.
We have replaced a disastrous trade deal that rewarded outsourcing with a truly fair and reciprocal trade deal that will keep jobs, wealth, and growth right here in America.
The deal overhauls NAFTA, the trade agreement passed during the Clinton administration, and aims to strengthen auto manufacturing in the U.S., improve labor standards, and increase access to markets for American dairy farmers. Earlier this month, the Senate overwhelmingly approved the legislation with rare bipartisan support.
The bill, what the president will be signing is quite different from what the president sent us. I hope he understands what he's signing today. And it's about the differences in enforcement, about protecting American workers, protecting the environment, and the prescription drug piece of that.
Other critics of the deal include environmental groups who argue the agreement doesn't go far enough to combat climate change. The USMCA still needs to be formally approved by Canada before it can take effect. In Washington, I'm Garrett Tenney.
According to SeatGeek, the average resale ticket price is nearly $7,000. That's $2,000 more than last year's tickets. SeatGeek says the price surge is because Hard Rock Stadium is smaller than other venues and because of the game's location in sunny Miami.
Yeah, it's not a cold Super Bowl this year. People love that. Kanye West will also be in South Florida and will also hold a Sunday service hours before the kickoff. The Super Bowl is this Sunday, 3 days away, right here on Fox, 6:30 kickoff. But I'm sure if you turn us on or turn Fox Network on all day long, they'll be doing all sorts of fun stuff.
Oh, yes.
In preparation for the big game.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be down there.
We're going down today.
You better come back tan.
I will not, but that's okay. It is just about 11 minutes after the hour. The fight over impeachment witnesses will soon be center stage.
This is not an inquiry into what happened in Ukraine. Are the allegations rising to the level that you would deprive the American people of the person they elected as president?
Newt Gingrich knows a thing or two about impeachment. So is this a legitimate trial of a deep dive on Ukraine? Texas Congressman Michael Burgess says the House had its chance. He joins us live. Good morning and welcome back. Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen plans to force a vote tomorrow demanding Chief Justice John Roberts subpoena impeachment witnesses and rule on any claims of executive privilege.
So how will this bold move change the course of the trial? Will it? Here to explain, Texas Congressman Michael Burgess. Sir, thanks for coming on this morning. Let's pull up the tweet from Van Hollen here. And this is what he's essentially saying, to give John Roberts a lot of power in this thing. He's going to put in a motion that'll ask John Roberts to basically subpoena any witnesses and documents that he thinks are relevant to this, and also to rule on executive privilege to try and speed this thing up. Does this have any chance?
Well, that's an unusual move, but, you know, look, I'm on the House side. Senate makes their own rules. The Senate will vote on that. I have serious doubts that that motion that Senator Van Hollen has put up will actually pass. But, you know, I can say this about the issue of witnesses on the House side. I'm on the House Committee on Rules. The night before the articles of impeachment came to the floor of the House, we had to write the rules that would allow the debate on the articles. And many of us were concerned on the Republican side, well, number one, because they hadn't allowed any Republican witnesses to be called. So we brought up the issue of witnesses, and we were assured that all of the witnesses they needed to hear from had been heard from, and this was such a serious issue of such significance for national security that there could be no delay, and it had to go to the floor tomorrow morning and be voted on. And then, of course, as we all know, they delayed another 30 days, and now they say, well, we don't have enough witnesses. It really can't have it both ways. Their assertion was they had heard from all the witnesses that need to be heard from.
Interesting. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what Newt Gingrich had to say. This is on Hannity last night, and we'll get you to react on the back end.
Sure.
This is not an inquiry into what happened in Ukraine. This is an impeachment trial. I think it is an absolute game for any of them to vote yes to have more witnesses, because the witnesses aren't going to change anything. This is not an impeachable offense.
Sir, do you agree with him? I mean, it's coming down on both sides here. Agree and disagree with that thought.
The main principle, of course, I agree with the former speaker. I hold him in very high regard. But the issue is not going to change. The outcome is not going to change. And we've known the outcome of this charade right from the beginning. At the end of the entire process, Donald Trump is the president, and there's an election in November. Those facts aren't going to change.
Nancy Pelosi said that, you know, they didn't call Bolton and Mulvaney, these others, because executive privilege would have taken this to court. They didn't know how long that was going to take. Has anything changed at this point? I mean, now we're going to drag it out starting now rather than in December?
Well, it could. That's the gamble. Obviously, the senator from Maryland feels that he can get Justice Roberts to change the rules in the middle of this Senate trial. I don't think that will work, and I don't think there will be the votes to do that.
Okay.
Let's shift gears now and talk about the coronavirus, because as we know, this outbreak tops, it's nearing 8,000 cases in China at this point. This has exceeded the SARS epidemic, and I understand that you were briefed by the CDC. I mean, we have so many questions here. The first, I guess, is do you feel as though we're getting all of the information from China? Is everything we're hearing accurate?
I can't speak to the accuracy of what we are hearing. Look, China has imposed the largest quarantine that I guess has ever been imposed in the history of public health. They've closed down a city of 10 million people where the epicenter of this virus is. Yeah. Now, that's a good thing from the standpoint, more people with an infection won't be traveling out. The bad thing is there's also a news blackout, so we really don't know. Now, I do know that our CDC and our NIH and our Secretary of Health has been trying to work with the Chinese, get them to allow our help, but because, look, it's a China problem to be sure, but it could become an America problem, a worldwide problem, and we do need to be cognizant of that.
And hopefully you're feeling more confident after you were briefed by the CDC?
Well, I'll just share with you, I'm as worried about this as I've ever been. Okay. I came here, the year I came here, SARS was the thing. We went through 2 different versions of the bird flu, the swine flu, Ebola, and Zika. But this one actually concerns me more than any of those episodes. It is evolving daily. People do need to pay attention to the restrictions and the advice that's put up on the official websites. Sure. Yeah. No travel to China right now should be undertaken. My personal preference would be to not allow anyone in from China. I realize that's difficult to do, but there must be a great deal of circumspection of anyone who's coming in.
Very careful.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
20 minutes after the hour now, Senator Elizabeth Warren wants to make it a crime to spread lies online, but she's had some issues with the truth, why critics say her controversial plan is embracing censorship.
And go big or go home, we're diving into this unbelievable Super Bowl spread.
Welcome back. Free speech police. 2020 hopeful Elizabeth Warren unveiling a plan to stop election disinformation online.
Aisha Husney joins us live as the Democrat vows to issue criminal and civil penalties for spreading so-called lies to impact voter turnout. Aisha.
Good morning. Yes, so Elizabeth Warren appears to be the first 2020 candidate to criminalize election disinformation, and she says it's all President Trump's fault. She tweeted this yesterday. Disinformation and online foreign interference erode our democracy, and Donald Trump has invited both. Anyone who seeks to challenge and defeat Donald Trump in the 2020 election must be fully prepared to take this on, and I've got a plan to do it. Okay, so let's look at her plan. Warren wants criminal and civil penalties for people spreading disinformation about voting. She's also urging social media companies to bolster their policies against deception, and she's considering more sanctions against countries that engage in election interference. Warren, though, is not the first 2020 candidate to vow not to spread false information. Other Dems also have called on social media companies to create stronger policies, but critics are calling her plan downright Orwellian for embracing censorship, and they're also hitting her over her own murky past with the truth. Remember this?
Many years ago, I sometimes identified as Native American. Never had anything to do with any job I ever got or any benefit.
I was visibly pregnant, which meant the principal gave you a handshake, wished you well, and hired somebody else for the job.
Yeah, so Warren has since apologized for saying she was Native American for nearly 2 decades. She was also caught on camera misleading voters about sending her son to a private school. And you'll remember she faced some controversy around whether or not she was really fired from a teacher's position for being pregnant. But she says that she's pledging her own team will lead the way for campaign honesty. Back to you.
Right, Aisha. Come on over because we have snacks.
Yeah.
Coming
Honestly, we do.
We do. We have a lot of snacks because the majority of us will be watching the Super Bowl from home this Sunday. But if you're hosting, we're about to show you how to bring the big game home.
Yeah, here to show us how it's done, lifestyle expert, one of our best guests, Limor Suss. She always has such a beautiful spread for us every morning. Thank you so much.
Of course. Hi.
And here's Aisha to help in her matching dress.
The first thing, we're matching twinsies. Okay, so the first thing we're doing is we're making buffalo chicken dip. So buffalo wings we did yesterday, but they get kind of messy.
Really?
This is actually one of the most searched recipes for the big game. So
you want to get in here and make it?
Oh yeah, Rob, you're gonna help me out. Oh yeah, Rob's helping me out. Okay, so I have 8 ounces of cream.
It's looking good so far.
8 ounces of cream cheese. To that, we're gonna add 2 cups of chicken. So you could just take a rotisserie chicken and just cut up the chicken breast.
Got that.
I'm going to add half a cup of ranch dressing, half a cup of blue cheese,
some cheese,
and then half a cup of Frank's Red Hot. And then you just mix it all up.
And then I get it all over my soup.
Yeah, we'll just do it nice and slow. So you bake it at 375 for about 20 minutes until it's nice and gooey.
Jillian, take a
If you want, you can also put it in a crock pot or a slow cooker, and then it just gets nice and warm. But just allocate a little bit more time if you are doing it in a slow cooker.
Okay. You do this every night.
Yeah, every night, Rob. Okay.
All right. Well, I'm doing a great job.
So next, we're all done with this.
Okay, we're done? All right, I can stop.
Okay, so you can help me with the next one. So we're making a French onion dip. And so one of the things when you're making the homemade French onion dip is you want to use sauteed onions. But I have a trick for you. So these are from Duro Gardens. They're right from the freezer section. They actually come flash frozen.
You don't have to do it yourself.
So you don't have to do anything. And so all you do is they kind of like come in like little cubes. And then you just put it in.
Smells good at 5 a.m., doesn't it? This is really good breakfast food, by the way.
I know. All the guests in the green room were like, this smells great at 5 a.m. Okay, and then you just mix that in. Really delicious.
I mean, that
and really
is so much
easy to do.
easier.
And then you just put it in with some pretzel crisps. And then if you want to do guacamole, things like that, they also have cilantro and garlic and whatnot.
And for the jalapeno.
Yes, the jalapeno
Lovers.
popper dip. So what I've done here, and I have the recipe on my Instagram, so if you follow me, you can see it there.
Yep.
But what it is it's mayo. We have jalapenos, cheddar cheese, and then cream cheese. So definitely stock up on cream cheese and sour.
You need a lot of cream cheese.
You want to stock up on cream cheese.
Mix them all together.
Okay, so
boom,
then
boom,
what
boom.
we have
very calorie
yeah, it's okay. It was melted butter.
It's all diet food.
Yeah, and then
Diet
panko. We have some Parmesan cheese.
We
and
gotta go quick now because we're running out of time.
Quick. So we have beer cheese dip. All you do is melt down some beer, cheddar cheese, and cream cheese.
Now what
it's
about
nice
this?
and delicious, and you do it with pretzel bites. This is a snack stadium, so I just went to the freezer aisle. I got a bunch of Farm Rich mozzarella sticks. We have potato skins. We have meatballs. We also have...
Good morning and welcome back. An entire police department in mourning overnight after an off-duty officer is killed on his way home from work. Nathan Martin's motor. President Trump is visiting a manufacturing plant in Michigan. He's expected to celebrate the signing of the historic USMCA deal, paving the way for hundreds of thousands of new jobs in America.
There's never been anything like it. This is a colossal victory for our farmers, ranchers, energy workers, factory workers, and American workers in all 50 states.
The president will also hold a Keep America Great rally in Des Moines tonight ahead of the Iowa caucuses.
All right, accused murderer Fotis Dulos ordered to be rearrested if he survives his apparent suicide attempt.
This order comes just one day after Dulos was found at his Connecticut home unresponsive in his running vehicle.
We will await word from physicians about what is reasonable to expect. Mr. Dulos is not guilty of the crimes charged and hope that he recovers so that we can vindicate him in a court of law.
All right, but he's in pretty bad shape. What does come next for this case, and what if this guy doesn't survive? Criminal defense attorney Robert Bianchi is here with expert insight on the case. Good morning, counselor.
Good morning.
What a development this is with Fotis Dulos.
Crazy, twisted case, and just keeps getting worse and worse. But this is going to have significant legal ramifications in the case, of course, should he die, or if he dies. The case against him gets dismissed.
But what about the girlfriend?
Well, the case with the two co-defendants is going to be ongoing, but here's the interesting dynamics behind the scenes, having been a prosecutor, being a defense lawyer now. I think the defense lawyers were holding their cards back with the other two co-defendants, hopefully down the road saying, hey, I got some data for you, prosecutors, and hopefully they're going to lesser their sentence and testify against Fotis. But now that Fotis has died, or is maybe incapacitated, that changes the equation. So those defense attorneys may be coordinating right now and saying, we better get to the prosecutors ASAP.
We don't have an answer. The first thing I thought of is there a note that's going to tell where the body is?
Right.
If there's nothing that says where the body is and he remains like this in a vegetative state, or if he dies, don't you have to go to Michelle Troconis and say, you know, we'll give you a great deal. You just got to tell us where her body is so the family can know. I mean, what do you do?
You're bringing out two excellent points that the legal world has been buzzing about with this. A search warrant was executed at Fotis's home yesterday. People were asking why. Personally,
Like this from happening, is there?
No, there is no way. And in fact, there have been cases I've been involved in that not only suicide attempts, but people have become incapacitated because of car accidents, medical illnesses, things of this nature. Crazy. And I can tell you as a prosecutor, a homicide prosecutor, it took the wind out of these prosecutors' sails when their main target did this, because it's likely going to cause a huge delay in the case.
What a story. It is something else. Bob, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. All right.
It is 38 minutes after the hour. Hillary Clinton docking a subpoena. We've never seen that before. The familiar stunt she's now pulling over Tulsi Gabbard's $50 million defamation suit.
It is an extremely high-risk and iconic American event. Make no mistakes, all the individuals on this stage, including the federal partners at the department, are prepared on all fronts for all threats.
And Homeland Security, along with Miami-Dade Police, ready for any All right, welcome back. Hillary Clinton appears to be dodging Tulsi Gabbard's $50 million lawsuit over these comments.
She's a favorite of the Russians. She's also a Russian asset. Yeah, she's a Russian asset.
Russian asset. The Congresswoman's lawyer, Brian Dunn, telling the New York Post they've tried to serve Clinton twice, but were turned away by Secret Service agents. Dunn says he can't believe Clinton would be so, quote, intimidated. Hillary's team did not comment on this New York Post report.
Presidential hopeful Joe Biden leading in Iowa right now, with Bernie Sanders a close second. A recent Monmouth poll putting Biden at 23%, with Sanders following at 21%. The former VP raising eyebrows in the Hawkeye state while talking about his vice president pick.
Whomever I pick is two things. One is capable of immediately being president, because I'm an old guy. Okay? No, I'm serious. I work out every morning. I'm in good shape, knock on wood, as my mother would say. And thank God I'm in good health.
At 77, if elected, Biden would be the oldest president ever.
Not at 81, something else. All right, we are just 3 days away from Super Bowl 54 on Fox, and security is already stepping up at Hard Rock Stadium as thousands and thousands of fans descend on Miami, Florida.
Ray Bogan is live outside the stadium with a look at all the preparations. Good morning, Ray.
Rob and Jillian, good morning to you. You know, the tight security is evident from the moment you arrive at the convention center to pick up your press credential. Some of the surrounding streets are blocked off, and then getting inside is more or less like going through an airport. You have to walk past canines, put your bags through an x-ray, and then go through a metal detector. But this tight security is an
American event, and security preparations are structured accordingly. Make no mistakes, all the individuals on this stage, including the federal partners at the department, are prepared on all fronts for all threats.
Now, as for the game, both teams are projecting confidence ahead of Sunday. They also said on the injury front, tight end Travis Kelce and defensive lineman Chris Jones are good to go for the Chiefs, and running back Tevin Coleman returned to practice for the 49ers. But, of course, all eyes will be on the quarterbacks. The Chiefs' Patrick Mahomes talked about playing against the 49ers' Jimmy Garoppolo, who has already appeared in 2 Super Bowls.
I think with me and him, we've been put in a lot of great situations, and then we've just tried to maximize that every single day that we get those opportunities. I think Jimmy would say the same thing.
I wish the players could have 2 weeks every week to do a game plan. I mean, for them to come out on a Wednesday today and just be firing on all cylinders, it's not usually like that.
Now, Rob and Jillian, on a more somber note, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says the league will pay tribute to Kobe Bryant on Sunday. He says it's necessary to respect someone who contributed so much to sports. Back to you.
All right, Ray, thank you so much.
All right, it is time now to check in with Brian Kilmeade to see what's coming up on Fox and Friends. Brian, I've alerted security that you're coming down there.
Right. Thank you very much. Chad Wolf did reference me in the press conference. I am getting my own private security. They believe the question is, and you got to answer at the end of my promo, who's more handsome, Jimmy Garoppolo or Rob? So you're going to have to make that assessment. All right. So
I know what she's going to say.
Well, we'll see. Hey, let me tell you what's coming up. Real exciting stuff yesterday, and I'm actually being serious, as these guys, the Republicans and Democrats, really going at each other on these so-called written questions. I did not know you could ask your own side a question. This whole thing was a setup to a degree. We'll talk about what happened and what it means for witnesses, because we're going to get our last 8 hours today. Could it all be over? Senator Mike Braun's got to be live, the businessman turned senator. He's going to talk about the president's big trade win, as well as the chances of 4 Republicans switching sides. And celebrity Dr. Drew Pinsky, he knows a lot, a great communicator. He might be running against Adam Schiff, because in Adam Schiff's district, while he plots and plans in Washington, they have homeless everywhere. And Brexit leader Nigel Farage. What is with Huawei, and why did they leave us in the lurch? Boris Johnson and company. We'll talk about that as the Brexit becomes serious, and they are all set to leave the European Union. We're also going to talk about Bernie Sanders, his former staffer here, talking about why the Democrats are turning on him, and Super Bowl winning quarterback Joe Theismann. He's got great hair, and he's also got a great ring, Super Bowl ring. You could not have a Super Bowl week without Joe Theismann. We'll see him here, and then we'll see him in Miami on Sunday. Jillian, your answer.
Brian, I choose you.
No, you know what she likes?
I am not
Secretary Chad Wolf. She thought he was cute in the soundbite. That's who won, Brian. It's a tragic day.
Gotta go.
Thanks for making it awkward, Brian. We'll be right back.